Hey guys, Kevin here with JCR. Today, I'm going to show you how to install our Gladiator Underseat Storage Basket. Alright, so to begin, we're going to take the front panel from this basket and install our lock. In order to do that, just make sure this is your top and all these flanges face in toward the center of the basket. So the lock's going to install into this cutout here. In order to do that, you're simply going to remove the nut, insert the lock from outside to inside, and then reinstall that nut and tighten everything down. Once you have that nut tight, go ahead and take this U-shaped bracket and install it over the pin as well as these two holes, and then using your 1/4 inch hardware, going outside to in with a nut on the inside here. You can get those started, and using a 5/32 Allen you can tighten those up. After that, you can install the sides. Just make sure that this flange faces up, just like these. And then using 3 button head fasteners over here, you can go ahead and get that started. Now it's going to be a good idea to leave all these just a little bit loose right now so that can kind of move around, so that when we bolt it to this bottom panel, everything lines up. Next we'll do the same thing over on this other side. Alright, so now that you have the front and the sides loosely assembled, you can stand this up around your bottom panel. And then using all the holes along this outside bottom edge, you can install your 1/4 inch button heads as well as your flange lock nuts. Okay, now once you have all of these bolts started, take your 5/32 Allen and tighten them up. Okay, so now that you got your basket all assembled, you can decide where you want to put your gear divider, or if you don't want to run it. But if you're going to run it, we give you several slots here. You just got a couple notch tabs that'll slide down in there, and then you'll slide it forward to this face, and then using 2 more 1/4 inch bolts, you can bolt that in place. Once both those are loosely started, you can tighten them up. All right, now you got your basket all assembled. Let's get inside the truck and get that prepped for the install. Okay, so first thing here, once you get inside of the truck, you can remove these 4 screws holding down your factory plastic divider with a T40 Torx or a 10mm socket. Now you can remove that and throw it in the trash. All right, so the next step here, we're going to begin installing these latch brackets. So we're going to start with the one here on the passenger side. Just make sure when you go to do this that both seats are all the way up, because if this one's down and you install this, you're going to have to remove it before you can put that seat back up. So to begin, what you're going to need to do is remove the bottom of this seat cover and then unzip both of these zippers. And that'll give you access to where we need to bolt this. So for starters, I'm going to kind of peel this back so that you can see the bolt holes we're trying to access, which are right here. There's 2 of them right here in the side of this seat frame. And now what we're going to need to do is actually make a cut in this fabric for our bracket to slide through so that we can bolt to the side of the frame. So in order to do that, I'm going to pull this back over top of the frame. And now you can maybe see here, there's kind of a little bit of this padding that overhangs the seat frame once it's all the way back in place. And if we just leave that kind of tucked down here to the side for this step, it'll let you kind of feel where you're going to need to make this cut. But in our case, if you kind of get this fabric pulled back where it's going to sit, and you kind of feel around for that, as well as using your bracket as a guide located off of those holes, because you can kind of line it up and see it through here. It looks like what we're going to have to do is come over about 1.5 inches from this zipper And then starting just below this seam, maybe a 1/4 inch below, we need to come down about 3 inches is what it looks like with our bracket here. So again, that's going to be 1.5 inches over in a 3-inch slot. All right, one important thing to note here before you get this installed, you are going to have 2 different size holes on this bracket. The larger one is going to take a 5/16 bolt, where the smaller hole is going to take a 1/4 inch. Okay, so at this point, the easiest way I've found to install this is simply install those 2 bolts loosely into the bracket and then kind of holding them with your fingers so they don't back out. You can slip that whole assembly down through the slot. And then looking through here with your seat cover partially removed, you can line both of those up into the hole and get them started like that, and then install both nuts on this backside and snug it in place for now. Okay, and then here to tighten this up, what seems to be the easiest is to use a wrench here on the outside, and then on the inside you can access that with a socket and a ratchet. Now we're just going to kind of snug this up at this point so that it's not moving all over the place on us, but we will need to adjust this a little bit later, so you don't have to go too crazy here. Now with that in place, you can go ahead and at least partially reassemble this seat. Just make sure to leave this zipper undone so that you can access that later on. Okay, now moving over to the driver's side latch bracket, you're going to go ahead and partially disassemble that seat just like you did on the other one, and then go ahead and fold that passenger seat down out of your way. And now we need to make a cut to accommodate this bracket. So for this one, we're just going to come about 1/8 inch below this stitched seam in the factory fabric, and then about 1/8 inch over from that zipper, and you're going to make a horizontal cut here about 1.25 inches wide. This bracket's only 1 inch, so that gives you a little bit of wiggle room there. With that fabric cut, you can go ahead and insert both bolts into the bracket like we did on the other side. Slide that up through the cut, and then push it in down here alongside of the seat foam and get both of those to pop out through that seat frame. Now with those in place, you can install your washers and nylock nuts. And then with your wrench and your socket, just like we did on the other side, go ahead and snug those up for now. All right, now once you have both of those bolts snugged up, just like we did on the other side, you can partially reassemble this seat. Just make sure, leave yourself access here so you can adjust that later. So now you can go ahead, set your basket down in the vehicle, and then line up the factory holes with the provided slots. And then using the factory hardware, you can get this bolted down. Now just note here, much like we did on those seat brackets, we're not going to go crazy tightening this up because we may have to use those slots to line our latch up down here. All right, now once you have that basket bolted down, go ahead and fold down the passenger side seat, and then you'll want to check the alignment of our latch bracket to the basket, just making sure that this rectangular cutout is lined up nice and evenly with the latch cutout down here. Once you have that where you want it, you can go ahead and firmly tighten down this basket as well as the bracket in this seat. All right, next we need to line up this driver's side latch bracket. So in order to do that, we're just going to lower this seat down. Just be sure when we lower this down that the bracket isn't actually coming in contact with the lock on the way down, and just slides in nice and easy behind there. So here I'm kind of hitting the lock, you can see. So being that that's still just a little bit loose, you should be able to manipulate it and get it to slide down in like so. Once we're happy with that, and it feels like that lock pin goes in, we'll raise it back up one more time and tighten that in place. Now after you've tightened that up, just go ahead and finish reassembling your seat bottoms completely if you haven't done so already. So now at this point, if you happen to be having any minor issues with this latch bracket after you've got everything tight, go ahead and get yourself a soft face hammer of some sort, like a dead blow or something like that, that's not going to damage the finish. And you can make small adjustments to it that way without having to take this all back apart. All right, once you're happy with all that fitment, go ahead and close it down, lock it up, and that's it for this install. If you guys have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to us, info@JcrOffroad.com, or give us a call, 269-353-1184.